This video? What the heck?
This video is brought to you by...
This video?
Squarespace.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, we're live.
This video is brought to you
Oh.
by...
This video.
Oh, what, did,
Okay,
did
here
they
we
catch
go.
the
Yeah, we're
Squarespace
live.
part?
This video is brought to you
Oh.
by...
Did
Okay,
they
here we
catch
go.
the
Yeah, we're
Squarespace
live.
part?
Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah,
Okay,
did
here
they
we
catch
go.
the
Yeah,
Squarespace.
we're
The
live.
crazy thing is I can't even
Maybe,
check
maybe
because
not.
it's buffering on my
Okay,
end.
I'm gonna have to like, I'm muting that because I keep hearing double of us.
Oh.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, we should be fine. We can go.
Okay.
Good
Then
evening,
Scrappy's gone, of course. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
I never left. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Storytime with Scrappy and Friends. My name is ScrappyFan92, and with me today are Harry, Raideran, and Pedrivo.
So,
As always.
We are continuing today's episode. Pardon me. On today's episode, we are continuing In Your Shadow, the Mortal Kombat story by One Shot Revolt. Previously on Storytime, or rather the story, Sub-Zero and his edgy brother Noob Saibot traveled to the Netherrealm to enact a plot to overthrow the necromancer Quan Chi. They encountered the demon... Oh my. They encountered the demon Serena, and Sub-Zero reminisced about his youth when Noob was still immortal. And also, yeah, I will once again not be narrating, which is a good thing because I'm sick.
just keeps throwing it onto me. It's crazy.
It's good for consistency within the story.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, have fun testing your might.
Hmm.
Test your might.
Hello?
Hello?
The silence.
Yes.
Well, whenever
The
you're
sound was
ready.
deafening, yeah.
I mean, I'm
Whenever
not the
you're
narrator.
ready,
I'm not the
you can go.
narrator.
Yeah.
I know, I'm talking to Driva.
It was
Oh,
just
okay.
like, that was so sudden, I wasn't too sure if I should start or not.
Yeah, that was,
Like,
I
the
wasn't sure what was
silence
going
made me
on.
think, like, is someone speaking and I just can't hear them? Alright. I'll begin then with Chapter 3, Yes of the Necromancer. Porters... See, I'm clearly not prepared today. Porters were like
start.
black forests. Passages were oppressively narrow and intimidatingly tall. When Kuai Lang looked up and he could not make out a roof... he could not make out a roof. I added an "and" there. He quickly returned his attention forward when he felt the cold, oily grip of the shade on his elbow steering him forward. Nothing moved, and yet everything moved. All was tall, sheer stone, barren and still, yet it flickered with a green light, the source of which always eluded them. No, I think there's supposed to be like some sort of comma or semicolon somewhere in there. Deeper corners echoed with the rumble of distant howling. Kuai's skin crawled. A foreboding dread was rising within him. He schooled it to remain calm, but even the lifetime of training had not prepared him for this. At intervals, the screams from below rang out so vibrant that the walls resonated and distorted with them, and the green fire curled like live stoked flames and ran mad up into the deep shafts of nowhere above. As he tried to keep his pace even and cool amidst the bending reality about him, he found himself comforted by the firmness of the grip keeping him straight.
Just give me some demons to fight. His feet, the ground, and an opponent. Those are the odds I can deal with. Hurry it up before the last of my ice melts and I become one too many above Zero.
Haha, he's got jokes now. Their corridor abruptly opened into a wide hallway. After the confines of the passage, it looked naked and revealing. Huh? Kuai blinked several times, trying to readjust his eyes. When nothing changed, he realized that the floor here sloped at an almost imperceptible gradient, sending the lines of perspective off at curious angles. The darkness always followed them and curled and bent toward his brother. It kept out the leering twists of the disembodied green flames that moved as hosts upon the stonework. Kwai fought hard not to flow with his instincts into the obscurity that stealth would lend him.
Straight and proud. Walk straight and proud. Like you're Sub-Zero and not Tundra. He always did kind of strut about the place.
Kwai's eyes did a double take when he saw a woman enter the chamber. She had the same kind of misplaced beauty to her that the woman called Serena did. She had the same kind of misplaced beauty, as if they did not quite belong, and their whole form had undergone a tilt shift that sent the eye to a different place. Her eyes flicked briefly over them as they passed. Noob Saibot did not acknowledge her.
Maybe Quan Chi is tired of flaming skulls and horned monsters. Maybe he turned all the demons into beautiful women. Maybe he'll turn Bihan into a beautiful woman.
Spicy.
Maybe a sister. Maybe a sister would be easier to get along with.
The heat was rising in his limbs. He shook his head faintly to clear his head. That sentence. Okay. The Shade's grip turned painful. Kwai grimaced under his mask. He knew this was getting risky, but it was Bihan that had taken the risk. If he had his way, he would have stayed in the cave chewing human flesh, or whatever that was. He tried not to think about it. He clenched his fists and let cool fractals collect under his gloves. He pushed the ice up to his chest and froze the thinning layer of ice wrapped around him. The wraith stopped walking. Kwai and the Shade did likewise. Kwai finished reinforcing the ice about him. As soon as he had done so, the wraith began walking again. He was striding purposefully toward a set of double doors at the far end of the hall. The angle of the floor meant that they walked ever so slightly up to approach it. The doors were black stone with gold enamel that picked out silent faces rearing through the dark, as if trying to escape a doom that forever held them imprisoned. The wraith placed his hand on the door. He turned his face silently, just enough for his eyes to meet Kwai's. They were the same empty white irises. Or irises, however that's pronounced. Kwai searched in them, earnestly seeking for something. Anything else. When his brother broke the gaze, Kwai did not feel like that search had been in vain. Noob Saibot pushed the double doors open with forceful intent. He strode forth with a vanity Kwai knew neither of them felt. Kwai kept pace with him, stepped perfectly in time. Noob's true shadow had, for the present, vanished. The walls in this room leaned slightly outward, Kwai surmised. Either that or he was suffering from sunstroke. The room was lined with pillars that supported a ribbed dome roof. A dais and the bone throne stood at the far end of the chamber. Two doors lead off to either side in perfect symmetry. To one side of the throne lounged the lithe woman they had met earlier on the road. She was wearing much more full attire now, and somehow she suited this place. Kwai kept his face impassive. Standing behind the throne, with his back to them, Kwai could make out the ghostly pale skin of a man. He was muscled in a thin, hard, cruel way, and marked with red symbols that looked like half-written incantations to old secrets. He turned abruptly and stepped forth from the gloom. Black tattoos wrung his eyes and shot back across his bare scalp like the shadows of spears before war. This was Quan Chi, Kwai knew.
Noob Saibot.
The sorcerer's voice was amused, deep and melodious. It sounded like it was used to darker things, there we go, and was striving now to remember how to form words for conversation rather than raising unspeakable horrors.
Master. Ugh. My voice.
If it means anything, like my throat's been kind of like a little crackly thanks to me eating some meat sticks earlier.
Yeah, no, I was sneezing earlier and I had to clear my throat, but I didn't expect it to still be stuck.
Nice, nice. It'll clear up
Okay.
soon.
Master.
Okay.
Professional.
Yep. He heard his brother say. Kwai realized in horror that the wraith beside him was kneeling, head bowed in deference. Quan Chi was watching them with interest.
It's too late to kneel. Act cool. Think cool.
He kept his features impassive and folded his arms, looking straight forward.
Just what that proud bastard would do. Kneel with his body and shout defiance with his shadow.
Quan Chi seemed to think so too. He merely raised an eyebrow and moved on.
You are a little later than I expected.
The sorcerer came to a stand before his brother. The wraith did not look up.
Was not expecting your summons so soon.
And yet Serena met you shortly after you re-entered Netherrealm and informed you of my will. She offered to escort you.
Okay, good.
She offered to escort you home. Perhaps if you had taken up the suggestion, she might have shown you a quicker route.
A shudder went down Kwai's spine despite Quan Chi's light tone. The sorcerer glanced at him. Kwai kept his attention straight forward. He felt the weight of those eyeballs boring into his skull. He stopped the air moving in his body and held an absolute, immobile silence. The moment held like water droplets on a taut thread. In his peripheral vision, he saw the sorcerer slowly turn back to the wraith. Kwai did not dare let out the breath pent up in his chest.
You would send that treacherous filth to deal with me.
The wraith's head had snapped up. Kwai could hear genuine anger in his brother's voice.
At least I know where I stand in Serena.
Quan Chi had turned around and was walking back towards the throne. Noob stood. I forgot about that part.
I have shown you nothing but loyalty, whilst she has betrayed you countless times.
Once even for your sake, if I remember correctly.
Enough!
The wraith snarled in a voice that almost made Kwai flinch with the memory of being on the receiving end of that temper.
Make her leave. She insults me with her very presence here.
The wraith stepped forward as he spoke, his fist gesticulating in anger. Kwai was confused by the dynamic in the room. The woman, Serena, had a curious expression on her face. It was something like hurt and grief and indignation. Quan Chi seated himself and regarded his specter over steeped hands.
As you wish.
He said with the same slow melodious voice that sounded as if it was treating with children. He motioned with his eyes for Serena to leave. She stormed out.
I think you hurt her feelings.
The sorcerer drawled.
Perhaps she still has some for you.
Kwai could feel the anger radiating off his brother. The wraith controlled himself, however, and returned to stand next to Kwai.
I still expect an explanation for your tardiness.
The patience was replaced by a thin layer of anger Kwai was ready to bet could rival Bihan's if provoked.
And I have one for you.
The wraith said easily.
I have something to show you. Or rather, someone.
Kwai Lang felt all the color drain from his face and his body go numb. He remained absolutely still.
You wouldn't. Surely you wouldn't. This is too contrived even for you. Would he? He might.
He felt his chest constrict as he thought of his naivety. He had walked into this. He had done this to himself. He'd been the one foolish enough to put trust into an undead creature enslaved to the underworld just because it bore residual ties to a brother he had once loved.
And now you will die for it. Sector was right. You should have purged your emotions from you.
I am late because I was mastering a new skill that the power. What that reads weird.
Yeah, a
Mastering
lot
a
of
new
this is read weird this chapter.
Mastering a new skill from the powers you have given me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am late because I was mastering a new skill from the powers that you have given me.
The Wraith bowed slightly.
Oh,
Oh, dagnabbit,
Oh,
it makes more
okay,
sense.
Yeah.
never mind. Yeah, there it is.
yeah, I'm still having trouble parsing this. What? That the powers you have given me allowed me to create.
The new skills that the powers he gave me allowed me to create, basically. It's just you have given me is really kind
Okay,
of...
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, I see.
yeah.
Well, fuck it. Allowed me to create. I meant for such a thing to be more perfected before demonstrating its utility to you. No doubt you are also wondering why I entered an Earthrealm portal without your permission. I needed to test my new abilities on something mortal. Those I killed will not draw any notice, I assure you. I hope that with this new strength, Master, you will find more ways to put me to good use.
As he said this, his shadow walked out of his body so that all three of them stood before the throne. Quan Chi tilted his head in interest. Noob continued.
I will soon be able to maintain my second clone with full combat prowess. Perhaps if you doubt my loyalty, you will allow me to give you a demonstration. I could, for instance, rip Serena's spine out for you.
Quan Chi gave a long, low laugh. Kwai felt strangely distant from them both, and for the first time realized truly what an imposter he was in this place.
You never cease to amuse, noob Cybot. What you lack in obedience, you more than make up for in diligence. I have never regretted raising you to serve me. Granted, you've never been as easy to control as Scorpion, but when it comes down to it, you and I see eye to eye on a great number of things.
Kwai noticed the flicker of the Wraith's hand gesture, and his time was able to catch the meaning. And this time was able to catch the meaning. Good lord. The Wraith, his shadow, and his brother all bowed in perfect unison.
You are dismissed, but no more traveling between realms without my permission. For the present, you are confined to the fortress.
The Wraith slowly looked up.
Master,
The fortress. So that your seditious streak may stew away in a hole until you are keenly compliant and eager to follow all I say down to the letter.
you cannot.
If you would prefer the ninth plane, please say so. I know there to be a lot more legroom there.
There was silence.
I thought so.
Quan Chi said coldly.
Now leave.
The three turned and left. Kwai did not dare do anything save silence his footsteps and keep his brother within arm's reach. The Wraith was leading him deeper and deeper into the bowels of the fortress. Each turn of a corridor or crack of an open door shared secrets he had not wished to know. Space distorted here, and great breadths fitted into places that should have been small as cupboards. Once they skirted the curve of a sturdy stone wall that he took to be the exterior of a staircase, he glimpsed what lay within as they passed an ajar doorway. An enormous dark space was filled with nothing at all, save the slow procession of gaunt, gray, ghastly figures spiraling eternally upward, gliding on a path that did not exist. He paused on seeing the spectacle, but his brother's shadow steered him on with a firm hand. He saw in another instance more grim, clammy figures with bodies that were somewhere between ethereal, fleeting light and sporadic, morbid puppets. They chased something only they could see about a bare and empty room. Their faces were fixated on their invisible quarry, hands outstretched ravenously, concentration ripe in their eyes. The pads of their feet made strangely dulled sounds as they ran their circles around and around. Again, Kwai's eyes widened. The disturbing oddness and repetition of the picture locked his interest in repulsed fascination. The familiar pressure on his arm pulled him on, and this time his brother came close to his ears so that his mask almost touched him.
Oh, hold on. Do not linger with those who are trapped, or you will join them.
His whisper was soft. Kwai shuddered and tore his eyes away. He kept his head down from then on, allowing himself to be led onto a labyrinth that became darker, and the heat more intense. He could feel rolling swaths of faintness move over him as he breathed the dry, stifling air. At last, when Kwai could see almost nothing at all, his brother opened the cell door. It grated as it moved across stone. The wraith shut it behind them. All was absolutely black. Kwai could feel the place alive around him. His heart beat loudly through his skull. The shadows pulled back suddenly, leaving a space around him that belonged neither to light or dark. Kwai could faintly see the shape of his brother.
The shadows, at least, belong to me.
The wraith's voice was quiet, but not anxious. Kwai was unsure if this meant a break in their prior arrangement that he not speak at all within the fortress walls.
We have a little privacy here.
His brother said, as though reading his thoughts. Kwai let out a long sigh. As he did so, he realized how exhausted his limbs were. He ground his teeth in frustration. In Earthrealm, he could force his body to go for days without essential needs. Here, it seemed, he was constantly being sapped of strength and power. He sat down heavily.
Should not be here. Should not be in this fortress, in this realm.
His voice sounded strange, but that was perhaps because he hadn't used it in hours. The oddity of the things he had seen, the powerlessness he felt in this place. He steadied his breathing.
I'm weakened very quickly here. Don't know what it is. Rihan will not hear the excuses anyway.
He looked away in frustration.
I know.
Kwai looked up. The wraith's eyes were dim white fires in the dark of the cell.
Netherrealm is not a place for the living. It drains much from mortals who enter it. It preys on them and seeks to right the anomaly of the living in the place of the dead.
If you knew this, then why did you bring me here?
Because I expect you to overcome this difficulty and aid me regardless. And it was better to calculate the addition of a weakened Lin Kuei cryomancer than it was to enlist the aid of a Netherrealmer. We have an uncanny habit of turning on one another at opportune moments. This is a delicate operation, one that will see me imprisoned in a plane of torture for a very long time if it is not seen through correctly. I think you see my dilemma.
Kwai had found the wall and was leaning against it. It had a pleasant chill to it in contrast to the tight, hot air of the room. He let his strained limbs go limp against its welcome relief.
What made you think I would agree to aid you?
The wraith tilted his head.
Of course you would help me. That was always obvious to me.
Kwai stared at him, his sleepiness forgotten.
It was.
It certainly had not been obvious to him. He deliberated for days over whether to meet with the Spectre.
You have always been easy to manipulate. Though I admit I considered it a possibility you might be less enamored with me now that I am dead. I thought perhaps your idolization might have died with me.
I did not idolize.
But then, fortunately, that mutated into something even more useful. A guilt complex and a savior syndrome. You were always going to snap up the bait, Kuai Lang.
Kuai stared daggers at him for a long moment. Then he looked away. His insides felt like they'd been severed into thin ribbons. He set his expression hard to hide the jolting pain those words cut inside him. Everything he endured in this place was that bit harder for hearing that. He knew when he agreed that it would be like this. He knew this was the deal all along and that using him for his own ends had always been Bihan's intention. He supposed it was the fractional moments when he was different that made it all the harder. Just for a few seconds before they had entered Quan Chi's throne room, he had been sure that a kindred desperate determination had united them once more. He rested his cheek against the black stone.
What will you do now that you're forbidden from leaving the fortress?
His voice was monotone. He was under no illusions, though. They both knew he was upset.
Leave anyway, as quickly as humanly possible.
Kuai Lang did not even bother rising to that.
Sleep now. I doubt you will be able to eat, but you can at least drink and sleep.
I'm not sleeping in this place. Did you see what's out there? I have no intention of winding up in some undead rite for eternity because I was sleeping.
I will keep watch.
Oh, well now I feel much safer.
Sarcasm dripped off his words. The Wraith looked at him. Kuai turned away, still raw from the put down earlier.
Go to sleep, Kuai Lang.
Bihan said. Kuai Lang lay down and slept. The candle was flaring and sputtering with the draft that sifted under the door. Shivers of winter mountain air toyed with its struggling flame. Kuai could feel his attention drooping. He blinked and narrowed his eyes to refocus them on the book he was reading. He stifled a yawn and drew his rug up to his chin. The bamboo mat beneath him kept him warm from the stone floor of his room. All here was minimalistic and stark, an aesthetic that sent one's focus internal and pushed the unnecessary to the periphery. The wooden door opened noiselessly, and strong gusts of wind blew white flakes into the room before it was quickly shut again.
What are you up to? What are you? What? Huh? What?
That's a wild
What are you-
sentence. The magic
what-
spawned from that.
What are you doing up?
Bihan scowled down at him as he dumped a small bag and began unstrapping the gauntlets from his arms.
Waiting for you.
Kuai kept his attention on the book.
You always wake me up anyway when you let the cold in.
His brother grunted and sat himself down on his own mat on the other side of the room. He tossed the gauntlets to one side and began to take off his greaves.
Actually, I wanted to ask a question.
You ever stop?
The greaves came off with a clatter on stone. Kuai closed the book and set it to one side, then rolled onto his stomach and propped his chin up with both hands.
It's about assassinating people.
Kuai watched his brother as he reverently unstrapped the sword and held it up for inspection.
Why do we kill people?
His brother set him with an unimpressed stare.
Put this away.
Bihan held out the sword. Kuai jumped up and took the weapon carefully, eyeing it with the same adoration his brother had. He carefully laid it in a built-in stone shelf on the far wall. When he turned back, his brother was standing and tugging off his tunic.
You know why.
He pulled the blue cloth off and tossed it to one side.
Because the Grandmaster commands it.
Yes, but why does the Grandmaster command it?
His brother backhanded him suddenly across the face. Pain smarted through Kwai's head. He staggered and fell to the ground. His hand went to his cheek and he looked up. His brother was fuming.
Never question the Grandmaster. Do you understand?
Kwai blinked several times at the stinging in his cheek and nodded miserably. He sat stunned for a moment where he had fallen. He slunk round the edge of the room and back to his bed where he pulled his rug over him and curled toward the wall. Something dangerously close to tears threatened to form in the corners of his eyes. It wasn't because he'd been struck, though. It was because of the anger and shock in his brother's face. He turned over where he lay and watched his brother take off the vented mask and set it to one side.
I didn't mean to question the Grandmaster, Bihan. I didn't mean it like that. I only want to know why our purpose is to kill. Not that I doubt the Grandmaster, I just don't understand the why. Surely the Lin Kuei must have killed all our enemies by now. Who else is left out there to oppose us? We're killing because it's good for the clan, aren't we? We're just defending our honor and territory, right? Only I was thinking about it all today in the last 3 nights, and I was suddenly worried that we might not be good people. And that what we're doing might be wrong. It's not, though. Is it, Bihan?
His brother set him again with dangerous eyes. Kwai shrunk into his blanket, but kept a stubborn, determined gaze fixed on Bihan. His brother leveled a finger at him.
You need to make very sure you never talk this way in front of anyone. You would be severely punished if anyone heard you talking like this.
I know that, and that's why I waited up to ask you. Please explain it to me. It's confusing me so much, and I nearly got distracted in a fight today because I was thinking about it too hard. We're not bad people, are we? We don't do bad things.
Oh, I guess he cut out. Okay, well,
Yeah, I guess he did.
Yeah. It was just Dewey Bihan. I can continue now. His
Wait,
brothers- You cut out right at the end. Right after you said
Ugh.
don't do bad things.
Here we be, hon.
There we go. His brother sighed with tested patience.
Give me that book.
Kwai looked down at the volume. He picked it up and handed it to his brother warily. Bihan drew it back as if to hit him with it, and Kwai flinched away. His brother laughed and opened it instead.
Jerk.
Kwai muttered.
You know what this is.
Just the history book. I have to read it for a class.
A history book. History is written by people who are strong, Kuai Lang. It's written by people like the Lin Kuei. And we can write it down any way we like, because there's no one else left alive to challenge us. We stay apart from the rest of the world so that their flaws do not taint the purity of our way of life. Out there, people claim to think in terms of good and bad because they are embarrassed to remember that they still live and operate in a world where there is only power and those strong enough to wield it. Make sure you're on the side of the strong, Kuai Lang. The Lin Kuei will not tolerate you asking questions. They will mistake you for one of the weak people who stand in their way. They only recognize others with power like themselves.
Kwai Lang looked up at him with wide eyes.
I'm not weak.
He protested. Bihan handed him back the book.
Alright,
Prove it.
Alright, Infinite, calm down.
Yeah, what was that noise I heard right there? That was like... Oh my lord.
I didn't hear anything.
I heard like super static for like half a second, immediately cut in between you saying then prove it, and Harry saying,
Too much about
right
that
there, now calm
noise.
down. Yeah, they're just... Oh my gosh, that shocked me awake, and I'm already awake.
Yeah,
Oh
you
my
kind of
lord.
have to be awake.
Yeah. Alright, well, speaking of being awake, I think someone else is about to wake up right now. Let's continue forward. Then he awoke, just as I said. He could see nothing, or when he awoke, he could see nothing. There was complete darkness. He raised his hand before his face, but could not see it. All he could hear was his own breathing loud and fast.
What do you dream of?
Kwai's eyes swung wildly in search of the speaker. Slowly his deprived sense recalled where he was. The shadows retreated around him as a figure blacker than all of them gathered them to him. That's a phrase.
You mutter and turn over as you sleep. You did last night as well. What do you dream of?
Kwai growled in frustration. He breathed in deep and slowed his beating heart. He took out his shallow bowl and filled it with rice. Or ice, not rice, what the heck. Filled it with ice. He drank from it when it melted. The cool water felt good. The hot, stinging air had dried out his throat. He repeated and drank again and again. His brother sat patiently watching him, apparently still waiting to be answered.
Unwanted memories.
He said coldly and stowed the bowl. The wraith tilted his head.
Memories.
The wraith considered this. Kwai strapped on his greaves and did not look up.
I do not sleep anymore. Neither do I dream. Or remember.
Kwai watched them guardedly. He picked up his gauntlets and tightened them onto his forearms.
Tell me about your dreams.
Kwai stared at him.
No way.
He flexed his hand and balled it into a fist, testing the binding on his arms.
Well, for one, they mostly involve you being a total bastard. Like this place is trying to remind how much you never give a damn about anything.
He regretted saying that. It came out with much more emotion than he meant it to. He also felt a twinge of guilt. This was the most civil the Wraith had been to him yet, and he was being bitter about an event that had happened years ago.
Where's my mask? Pitch black in here, I can't see anything.
His brother picked it up and held it out to him. Kwai snatched it and tied it on. When he was done, he realized the Wraith was still staring at him.
What?
He ground his teeth again. It was very rare that his temper got the better of him like this.
You're being unfair. I make no excuses for my present motivations. But it was not the case in life that I cared for nothing.
Is that so?
It is.
Well, you had a funny way of showing it.
The Wraith looked at him blankly. He folded his arms. The gesture made Kwai feel small again, and he hated that even now he felt belittled.
I kept you alive, Kwai Lang.
You did nothing but put me down.
Now you sound like a spoiled child. I shielded you from an authority that would have cut your throat before you were 10 if they heard half the dissidents that came out your mouth. So sometimes I used a firm hand. It was nothing to what the Grandmaster would have done to you.
I don't mean that. I mean the way you always looked down on me. Always told me I was weak.
To make you work harder. To make you be better than you thought you could be.
You told me there was no such thing as right and wrong. There was only power and weakness.
That's true.
And now you're in hell!
But soon I'll be the master of it.
Kwai Lang let out a roar of frustration and punched the floor. It turned to ice and stretched glittering. That's weird. And cold across this rock heated by the undying flames of the afterlife.
Quiet. Someone will hear.
The Wraith stood. His posture was one that had already moved on.
Why don't you ever understand? Why do you always have to be like this? It might just be that there's someone else other than yourself worth listening to every once in a while.
Someone like you?
Kwai flushed red.
Bihan.
Save it. I sense a salvation speech coming on. Excuse me if I sound bored. I am. And I have a revolution to plan.
I hate seeing you in this place. I hate what it's done to you.
It's done nothing to me, Kuai Lang. I choose to be what I am. A wiser man would know that.
Then a wiser man still would know he could choose to be different.
Are you going to come, or do I have to leave you for the Oni to find?
I'm coming.
They moved the shadows in the lower levels of the fortress. Kwai Lang was finally in territory he knew well and excelled at. Being unseen was in his arsenal. The air was hotter and drier here, but the stone was cool and made moving bearable. In the almost permanent darkness, there were no tricks of light and perspective to confuse him. They made fast progress through the network of tunnels Noob Saibot led them down. Kwai felt the air begin to stir about him. He suspected there was a deep cave passage they were aiming to exit from. He heard a soft clipped whistle. He knew the sound intimately. It was one of a long series the Lin Kuei used when multiple assassins were coordinating in the dark. He obediently split off and kept close to the far wall, coming round to the other side of a tunnel mouth that crossed their path. He saw the shape of his brother lean slightly to glance down the passage. Another low whistle sent Kwai along to the next tunnel entrance. When he checked it, he saw a faint red glow lighting the raw rock walls. He whistled that all was clear. He received the go-ahead to move down it. He sent out another message asking for his partner's position. He heard that he was in a parallel passage that would meet further along. Kwai suddenly felt his hair crawl. Something was not right,
Signal it.
he immediately thought.
No, it's Bihan. I'm not signaling it until I know there's a problem.
The other voice in his head objected.
You'd signal it to smoke.
He narrowed his eyes.
Smoke never throws me into an iceberg when I made a bad call.
He heard a footstep.
Damn it.
He whistled. There was silence. If Bihan had heard it, he would be keeping his position quiet as he moved in to locate the threat. She appeared before him with surprising stealth. Kwai stopped himself just in time to prevent his instinct summoning ice into long knives. Instead, he stood still and folded his arms. Before him was Serena. Up close, he could see the crescent moon markings through her eyes. She held herself with self-assurance, but there was a tiredness to that stance, as if this had all happened before.
Going somewhere?
She raised an eyebrow.
Quan Chi expected as much. He sent me to check that you were still suitably entertained.
Kwai narrowed his eyes. Speaking might give him away if she knew his brother as well as she appeared to, while provoking an attack in the fortress might bring about problems of its own. He opted for the only other option he could think of. He walked calmly towards her.
Don't make this more difficult for yourself, Bihan. You know what happens when we defy him.
There was that tone of voice again. The one that kept catching Kwai off guard. The one that sounded so genuine. And like she really cared for him. For Bihan, that was. He ignored her, the way Bihan would have done. She stretched out a hand to stop him. He grabbed it, twisted it, and locked it up. She did a high fall over her arm and rolled out it.
Damn it! What good can come of your perpetual defiance? Perpetual.
That perplexed Kwai. His brother had always been good at following orders. He had always had ambition too. but he was one of the conniving sorts who bided time and rose through ranks.
Open defiance is only ever reprimanded. Well, actually, I think that's Noob's words. Or
Yeah.
Bihan's words.
Yeah, probably like a flashback. Those had been in his very words to Kwai on more than one occasion. She drew back into a high-guarded stance.
Enough of this. I won't report this if you turn around now. Where is Bihan?
His brother should have intervened by now. He stalked slowly toward her. She kept a split guard, with one fist behind her head and the other pulled across toward her first elbow. This left her face temptingly exposed. He closed the distance and threw a jab straight for her head. The compressed guard pulled open with lightning speed, the front arm covering his punch and opening up her body for all the momentum to come straight through with her backhand. He leant out the way. I think that's supposed to be leapt. He leapt out of the...
Like, leaned, I think.
Lean? I don't think so.
I don't know.
I just don't think so. Out of the way and dodged it just in time, throwing out a foot to sweep her front leg in the hope that the force of her punch might send her falling. To his surprise, she deliberately dropped both hands to the floor, swung her legs through and kicked him hard in the chin. Yikes. He hissed and staggered backward. She was faster than he expected. He settled into a deeper stance. He drew one hand back and turned the other outward.
What's this? A little different from normal?
She was light on her feet, quick and flexible. He braced when he saw her weight shift. He took another kick to the face and grunted as it jarred his jaw. As he guessed, she did not propel through the kick, but kept her high stance and weight on her back foot in order to kick back a second time, this time with her front foot. As she did so, he seized her leg and dropped his body weight into the move, sending his elbow through her thigh. He heard her let out a cry and used the sound to pinpoint a target for a back fist. He caught her across the face with it. She rammed the heel of her boot into his spine. His back arched and he released her as he flexed in pain. She vaulted out of his reach and he span around to face her.
Not at all your usual style.
Her eyes narrowed. She had switched up her stance. She was leaning onto her back leg, and one he hadn't nearly shattered the bone in. Or the one he hadn't nearly shattered the bone in. He came in cautiously testing for another jab like he had opened with. When he saw her eyes engage on the movement, he snapped out a quick high kick straight into the same point he had elbowed on her front leg. She lost her balance and staggered backwards. She would have regained her balance, but he was ready. He threw a heavy punch to her head. She half redirected it with the remnants of her broken guard. He sent in another from his other hand, then kept pushing forward, landing punch after punch. In the exertion, his breath came in cold wraiths of fine mist escaping from the closed-up vents of his black mask. She seemed to keep taking his punches, managing to twist her body to keep herself upright, even though she had not yet fended off his onslaught. Enraged, he strengthened his fist with a thick coat of ice beneath the glove. He sent an uppercut to her jaw that threw her into the air. He caught her and slammed her into the wall, pinning her with one arm. He drew back his fist.
Who are you?
She whispered. He faltered. She grasped his hand where it held her. She pinned it to her chest and swiveled. He dropped to one knee as the lock went through his fingers and wrist, wrenching them hard. She isolated his little finger and closed the fist around it. He froze a layer of ice over it before he could think. She released it quickly in surprise, looking at his gloved hand in confusion.
Hold?
She said in dismay. He struck out with his legs and swept her out of the height advantage she had over him and rolled out of the way.
not possible.
she said.
You lost that. You lost.
She got up slowly as he recovered.
You lost the ice the same day you lost your compassion.
His eyes flashed in anger and he snarled in frustration. He batted her guard out of the way, punched her in the gut, then in the face, and kept going. He slowed when he realized the spirit had gone out of her fight. He slammed her against the wall again.
You aren't him.
She said bluntly, breathing hard and licking blood from a split lip. He growled and pushed his forearm against her neck. She tried to laugh around the choke.
I don't know who you are, but you should know. He's not worth it.
Why bared his teeth behind his mask? She studied him.
He'll spit your help right back in your face.
He fixed piercing eyes on hers, and they locked in tight combat. He hunted in them, looking to read her. She relented and stopped struggling.
If you love him as I do, then you will not stand in my way.
Why spoke for the first time. He held on a moment longer, then let go. She gasped and bent over, receiving air into her bruised throat. She shook her hair as she looked up to him, or looked up at him.
He is gone. There's nothing left of Bion in him. I tried. Believe me, I tried. But in the end, I had to give up.
He stood back from her and pointed his finger in accusation.
And that is why you failed.
He stormed off down the passageway. She caught her breath and straightened. She ran her hand over her throat and sighed. She turned and walked back toward the fortress. And that's chapter 3! Woo!
Scene.
They said Kombat, and that's spelled with a K. This author's a hack.
Fake fan.
Fake fan. So yeah, that was a fun little chapter with some combat with a K.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
interesting.
It wasn't quite mortal yet, though. You know, we're still missing half the title there.
Yeah.
One of them was mortal.
One of them was, but there sure was no mortality in that fight.
Okay, this is getting really into the backstory of the Sub-Zero brothers. The game's indulgent every once in a while, but they kind of are focused on other things most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
This is hard focused.
I would have to take your word for it. I know like nothing about these characters.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm just kind of rolling with it.
All I know is that the orange one says "get over here," and people like that.
Scorpion is yellow.
I just know there's a man with a deep voice, and sometimes he says fatality.
Finish him. Fatality.
There is no orange ninja.
He's yellow, orange, whatever that color is, okay?
Yellow orange. As opposed to orange yellow.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, like one of them is a yellow or orange, while the other one's an orange or yellow. It makes sense to me.
I still have no idea where this is ostensibly meant to be in continuity, because Kuai Liang should know who Serena is in at least one of the timelines at this point.
Hmm.
So yeah, make of that what you will.
So
Is
are we
it
doing another
possible that
chapter
this is
today,
fairly early?
or are we just what's happening?
That's a good question. We're currently 54 minutes in.
Yeah. So
I
Honestly,
feel
I
like
was
Everyone
I was
started
okay.
speaking at the same time.
I was okay just ending it here.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah,
We
looking at
seem
the
to be
next
going at
chapter,
a-
it would probably double our time.
Oh really?
Yeah, we seem to be going at a chapter per, and I kind of like
Okay.
that as well.
Yeah, this one seems good for chapter by chapter.
Fair enough.
It'll give us something, so hold off. Not want to translate. It'll give us something to hold on to, rather, for the rest of the year, I guess.
Yeah,
Right.
instead of like blasting through and once again being like, well, now what?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what we're gonna do after this.
Yeah.
Maybe we
yeah.
can.
Suggestions.
Maybe Tanner turns up again.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
That'd be kind of crazy. You never know. Maybe that's the Christmas episode.
Honestly, I do. We may take a break from story time at some point, just so I can kind of focus on personal things and do some writing.
Yeah. I mean,
Love Life special. Let's go.
A Love Live special. I mean, I already did that last year.
No, a Love Life Christmas special.
Yeah, I did that last year.
Oh, you
Did
did?
Yes, Harry, you were there.
Was that wasn't the one where you were like trying to write the thing during the episode, was it?
Yes, the poetry episodes.
Oh. Yeah,
Improv?
I didn't realize that was the Christmas episode.
Wow, fake fan.
We recorded one of them literally on Christmas Day.
I would remember it if I was there.
Yeah, no devotion to the craft. This is the reason why you record the videos instead of read them.
Yeah.
Harry getting exposed live.
Time we're gonna start our smear campaign against Harry.
Doesn't remember his own episodes.
Yeah, come
Yeah.
on now.
I forget like everything that's said after like a stream or a playthrough. Like as soon as I hit the stop record button, I'll be honest.
See, that's kind of crazy, especially thinking about how many times you've clipped your own stuff and we've watched those videos.
Mm.
You clearly remember some of it at the very least if you want to go back and see it.
Yeah, you never clip anything from story time.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
what the heck,
I
man?
I usually clip other people's stuff.
When you gonna clip some story time, Those moments when we, don't read.
The moments when the peanut gallery pipes up.
That would require me going through like hours of story time.
You already go through hours of story time by being here.
Yeah, you're already here live,
I did at one point try to do like stream highlights for every month, but then I realized how much of a mistake that would be, so I just immediately canned that idea.
Yeah, you're not enough of a narcissist for that.
That's really hard when you don't have clips.
Really hard when you
Yeah.
don't love yourself.
So yeah,
I don't know, I think it'd be pretty easy if you didn't love yourself.
I want to try and write at least one more chapter of something before this year is up. I should get on it.
I need to try
Yep.
writing
Top,
something
top.
myself. I keep saying that, but I just never do.
I'll just be over here, not worry about writing stuff, because that's not my forte. Wow. Alright, we need to talk for another minute and a half again. What's everybody got?
Well, I guess we'll just be probably reading this next episode.
Yeah.
I don't know who is in the next chapter. Like, I thought, yeah, fun trivia fact, folks, that Joey was supposed to be in this episode, but he just didn't show up.
He said he'd be here, then he just wasn't.
I feel like
You know what's gonna happen? We're gonna stop the recording, and he's gonna pop up.
He's gonna hop in as we're saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to
Let's see. So, yeah,
Jeez.
we'll probably just read the next chapter next episode. And, yeah, this is our anchor show for the anchor story for the time being.
Yep. Whoa.
Like,
Which
if
means
I-
I'm gonna be narrating for the time being.
yeah,
Yeah, unless we decide to get something else.
Unless I'm just conveniently not available one day,
Very conveniently.
that
A
was a good
very
joke.
convenient family emergency,
Yeah. Oh, whoops, my pet goldfish died. Sorry guys, I can't be there.
No.
We're having a funeral.
Yeah, it's a whole family thing, We even got funeral services. You know, we're gonna bury him over in the cemetery. Really sad.
Okay, well, it's been an hour now.
We've done it. Now we can leave.
So, yeah, we'll just probably read another chapter this next episode, and as for the rest of the year, to be determined.
We're gonna
Yeah.
read Honey Pop. We're gonna read Honey Pop fanfiction.
Honey Pop.
Yes, it's gonna be great.
Honey Pop. Dude, I cringe at hentai voice acting.
Let's go.
I cringe at hentai voice acting. Now you're telling me I gotta be the hentai voice acting?
Yes, you're gonna become the hentai voice acting. So can I be Audrey? Let's go. And that's the only name I remember. I think one of them's named like Nicole.
Maybe? I think so.
I think that's like the blue one.
No, I think that's the MILF.
It's not. It might be. That
Okay,
sounds
you know
like
what?
a-
Subject change. Oh, yeah. Oh gosh, man, what the hell?
And there was no subject to change to.
Exactly.
The subject change is that you're all getting sprayed with a bottle. Just
It's gonna be like that Zombieland Saga scene.
I've not watched Zombieland Saga.
You haven't seen the GIF?
No.
The
Oh my god!
The only thing I know is that one small girl punching gif, I think.
Okay, so this,
Lily.
there's this,
Lily.
yeah, there's this scene in Zombieland Sagas right at the beginning of the series, basically,
Oh,
where the
no.
main girl gets like the makeup, right? And everyone's like so excited, and then the producer dude just walks up to her and sprays her in the face with water for no reason, just to show that the makeup doesn't like come off. But it was super unprompted. It's hilarious. I love that gif.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna talk about the truck at the start or something.
No.
I
yes.
almost said the scene in the first episode where she gets hit by a truck, yeah.
ah yes, water equals truck.
Truck. I mean, yeah. Come on. Let's be honest. Now.
Yeah, water to the face, truck to the face, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, we will. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at Spider-Man posing dramatically right now.
He does do that.
Why is his suit so dark?
GameCube graphics, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so this story probably something I write later, hopefully, and that'll probably carry us through most of the rest of the year. So, yeah.
It's not much of the year left. Now that I think about it, it's kind of crazy.
We only got 2 months left, let's go.
That's kind of crazy, yeah.
Jeez.
And
You can tell
happy
it's the end of the
birthday!
year because Pokemon's coming out.
Yeah, and a happy
Oh,
birthday.
I've seen this gif.
Yeah.
Well, if that's all we have to say, then I will just wish a happy birthday to my younger brother who turns 25 today.
Congratulations.
Yo, let's go.
I don't know if my clap is coming up on voice chat, but I'm clapping.
I heard a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm clapping right next to the mic now. Is it coming up?
No.
Really?
No.
No.
I'm just
Wow.
hearing this sick guitar riff.
Alright, I need to turn off noise cancellation real quick.
No, then we hear all the static. No.
Alright, that's all I gotta say.
Alright, then that's all I got. Everyone be safe. Just eat your Wheaties.
Bye-bye.
Bye.